In section 4.2, we will talk about multiplying polynomials. When multiplying polynomials, one, use the distributive property to multiply each term in the first parentheses with each term in the second parentheses. Simplify by combining like terms and write the polynomial in standard form, which is from the highest to the lowest degree. Okay, for example, if we want to multiply 5x to the fourth times 3x squared plus 6x minus 3, we take the term outside of the parentheses, which is 5x to the fourth, and we multiply it to all the three terms inside the parentheses. Now here's what that looks like. So we have 5x to the fourth times 3x squared. Then we have 5, so you have a positive times a positive, so we have a positive 5x to the fourth times 3x squared. And then we have a positive times a negative, so we have positive 5x to the fourth times a negative 3. Now let's use our rules of multiplying exponents. So here, 5 times 3 is 15. And remember that when you multiply x to the fourth times x squared, you add the exponents. So this gives you x to the sixth. So 4 plus 2 will be x to the sixth. 5 times 3 is 15. And then, oh, you know what? I'm sorry. This is a 6x. I apologize. So 5 times 6 is 30. And when you have x to the fourth times x to the first, so we have x to the fourth times x to the first, we keep the same base, we add the powers, 4 and 1, and this gives you x to the fifth. So this gives you 30x to the fifth. So once again, 4 plus 2 is 6, 4 plus 1 is 5. And then here we have 5 times negative 3, which is a negative 15. And the x's have nothing to multiply with, so this is a negative 15x to the fourth. Here's another example. We do the exact same thing. We distribute the negative 6x cubed. So we have negative 6x cubed times 5x squared. Then we have a negative 6x cubed times a negative 4x. And then we have a negative 6x cubed times a negative 9. So we have a negative times a positive, so negative 6 times 5, that's a negative 30. And then x cubed times x squared is x to the fifth. Then we have a negative times a negative, that's a positive 24. And here we have x cubed times x to the first. So if there's no exponent, remember there's like an indivisible 1. So x cubed times x to the first, that's going to be x to the fourth. Then we have a negative times a negative, so we have a positive 54x cubed. And please be careful with your signs. So if you have a negative times a positive, it's a negative. If you have a negative times a negative, it is a positive. Okay, next we have x minus 4 times x minus 5. So this was a little bit different because instead of having just one term, we now have two terms in the first parentheses. So here we're going to use something called the FOIL method. So essentially, here's what we're doing. We take the x and we multiply it to both terms in the second parentheses. So what I have is, I have x times x, and then I have x times negative 5. So I have a positive x times a negative 5. Then I do the exact same thing, but with the negative 4. So I have negative 4 times x. I have negative 4 times negative 5. I'll write that in a different color. So I have a negative 4 times x, and then I have a negative 4 times a negative 5. Now I'm writing this all out, but you can do this in your head if you're able to. If not, then write it out as well. So once again, the x gets multiplied to the x and the negative 5, then the negative 4 gets multiplied to the x and the negative 5. So this gives you x squared minus 5x minus 4x, and a negative times a negative is a positive 20. If you combine your like terms, you have a negative 5 and a negative 4, then this gives you x squared minus 9x and a positive 20. A quick way to do it is you can say x times x is x squared. Then you have a negative 5x and a negative 4x. That's a negative 9x. Negative 4 times negative 5 is a positive 20. So once you get better at this, you can do it in your head if you choose to. Let's take a look at the next one. We have 4x times 2x and 4x times negative 5. So we have 4x times 2x, and then you have a plus 4x times negative 5. Okay, now we're going to look at the 7 So we take the 7 and you multiply to the 2x and you multiply to the negative 5. So we have plus 7 times 2x, and then you have plus 7 times a negative 5. Let's combine our like terms. 4 times 2 is 8. X times x is x squared. 4x times negative 5, so I multiply 4 times negative 5, that's negative 20, and I have that x. Then I have 7 times 2, which is 14, and I have that x. And then 7 times negative 5 is a negative 35. Just remember that a positive times a negative is a negative. You have to combine your like terms, which are the two terms in the middle. So this gives you 8x to the second power minus 6x minus 35. Now if you do it mentally, you can just say 4x times 2x is 8x squared. 4x times negative 5, that's negative 20. 7 times 2 is 14, so negative 20x and 14x is negative 6x. 7 times negative 5 is negative 35. However, I always recommend showing your work and writing it out. Okay, so next one's a little more complicated because we have the 2y minus 7 and the 3y minus 5, and then we have another 6y on the outside. So the hint that I'm going to give you is whatever your two parentheses are, you multiply those first. So for now, ignore the 6y and just multiply those. So here's what I have. I have that 6y on the outside. I'm not going to forget about that. Okay, and then I have 2y times 3y and 2y times negative 5. So I'm going to write that. I have 2y times 3y, and then I have a 2y times a negative 5. Then I do the same thing with the negative 7. So I have a negative 7 times 3y and a negative 7 times negative 5. Then I'm going to close that bracket. Okay, so I kept the 6y where it is, and then I just multiplied 2y times 3y, 2y times negative 5, negative 7 times 3y, and then negative 7 times negative 5. So we have the 6y on the outside, and on the inside we have a 6y squared. 2y times negative 5, that's a negative 10y. Negative 7 times 3y, that's a negative 21y. Negative 7 times negative 5 is a positive 35. Now I combine my like terms. I still have a 6y on the outside. And then I'm going to, now that the parentheses are gone, I can just turn this into a bracket. I have a 6y squared, and then a minus 31y plus 35. Okay, now I'm not done yet because I still have that 6y on the outside. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that 6y and we're going to multiply it to each term inside the parentheses. So this gives me 6y times 6y squared. Now, I'm writing it all out, but if it works for you, you can do it in your head. Then you have plus 6y times a negative 31y, and then you have a plus 6y times 35. Now if I multiply this, I have 6 times 6 is 36y cubed. I have 6 times negative 31, that's negative 186, and y times y is a y squared. And then I have 6 times 6y times 35. So first I multiply 6 times 35. I believe that's a 210. And then I still have a y. So this will be your final answer. All right, last but not least. So this one is going to be a lot of steps because now I have the x, which multiplies to all three of those terms. And then I have the negative 4, which multiplies to all three of those terms. So let's go step by step. Now this time, I'm not going to write out all the steps. I'm going to try to do it more mentally. So if I have x times 2x squared, that's a 2x cubed. If I have x times negative 5x, that's a negative 5x squared. And if I have x times 7, that's going to be a 7x. The same thing with the negative 4. I have a negative 4 times 2x squared. That is a I have a negative 4 times 2x squared, that is a negative 8x squared. Then I have a negative 4 times a negative 5. Remember that a negative times a negative is a positive, so that'll be a positive 20x. And then I have a negative 4 times 7, that is a negative 28. And again, please be careful with the signs. If you have a negative times a negative, it's going to be a positive. Now let's combine our like terms. So 2x cubed, that is my only x cubed. I have a negative 5x squared, and I have a negative 8x squared. That is a negative 13x squared. I have a 7x and a 20x, that is a 27x. And then finally I have a negative 28. And I don't see any other like terms, so that is going to be my final answer. All right, so please come to class with questions so I can help you out.